Back when I was a baby Trinket, I fell in love with a card game. It had such a cool aesthetic, TV show, and manga. Now, of course, I'm not talking about Magic, I'm talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! I loved this game as a kid, and eventually went to a game store to play some games. This is when I first learned about meta decks, competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!, and that whole side of the game. At first, it was really fun. I can make a meta deck and play games and win at my local game store. But as the game continued on over the years, it got faster and stronger because Yu-Gi-Oh! Only has one eternal format. So when new cards come out, they are designed to be more powerful than the old cards and push the game even further. And now, currently, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very much a one-turn format. There are a lot of decks that can win in one turn or even on the first turn. And basically, it comes down to whether or not you drew the free interaction in your opening hand. I got sick and tired of the power creep, the uninteractivity of how fast the format had gotten. A bad opening hand just lost you the game. That was it. And then I heard about this cool other card game, which had a brilliant solution to power creep. And that solution to power creep is why I play Magic today. But in recent years, Wizards has intentionally given up on using their solution to one of the biggest problems facing long-term games like this. So I want to talk about power creep today, how it affects the game, how Wizards fixed it, and then how they broke it. And also, how it harms Commander, because casual Commander is indeed harmed by power creep, even if it is less than 60 card formats are. All of that after this ad break. Have you ever wanted to code, but you didn't know where to go? Well, then today's sponsor, boot.dev, might be the answer for you. This is a website that teaches you coding in a unique, fun way. They did a great job gamifying learning. You get levels, items, and more. It's like playing an RPG, but you will be learning Python, SQL, or Go. All of these are excellent skills for professionals to learn. If you don't know anything about programming, you might be at a disadvantage in the job market within many different fields. And this is only becoming more and more relevant as time goes on. The coding projects they do are very fun. Here's some actual footage of me doing some of the tasks. Non-type variables. Not all variables have a value. We can make an empty variable by setting it to none. None is a special value in Python that represents the absence of a value. It is not the same as 0, false, or an empty string. My mental acuity equals none. Very accurate. The value of my mental acuity in this case is none until we use it. Until we use the assignment operator equals to give it a value. None is not a string. Declare a variable named enemy and set it equal to none. Create an empty enemy variable here. So that would just be like, okay, I just have to make this variable here, set it to none, easy peasy, and boom, that's one lesson solved. And if you want to get in on this, you should check it out. There's a free demo of each course and a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy. Plus, if you use my code, you'll get 25% off. With all of that, there is no reason not to try out boot.dev. Click the link below and start learning how to code today. Thanks to boot.dev for sponsoring the channel. So what's the big solution to power creep? Standard and draft. Draft, obviously, doesn't need to be power crept. As long as you have fun, interesting draft archetypes and mechanics, people will play draft. It's really great for local game stores. They sell packs, and then you get to draft them. It's really good for new players. You get to buy new cards and also learn about the game in a slower, low-power environment. Standard is also really great for power creep because you don't need to print a card that's super duper powerful to see play in Standard, since eventually every card rotates out. So when you print a new card, let's say it's slightly weaker than what is currently meta in Standard. Well, when that old stuff then rotates out, as long as you didn't print anything new that's too much stronger than that slightly weaker thing, that now becomes the meta. And then now it's a set that everybody wants to buy because it's part of Standard. Or if you print something that's a little bit stronger than the current meta, that's okay too, because that old stuff was going to rotate out after a little bit, and people would have to buy new cards eventually anyway. It doesn't feel like they got pushed out of the format as quickly. And since you're always aiming for the same low power level in Standard, if things are slightly stronger or slightly weaker than the current meta, that's okay. Of course, there's always going to be a best deck, a best archetype, But if something is a little bit weaker, it can still be a piece of the metagame pie, which leads to more deck diversity and everyone having a lot more options to play. And then on the off chance you accidentally make a card that's way too strong and it pushes all the other stuff out, instead of waiting for that to rotate, you can just ban it as a quick emergency and then get back to the regular meta. This also benefited Eternal formats greatly. With a steady stream of cards that are at about the same power level, it took a long time before there were enough interactions between the new cards to actually make a big splash in older formats. Which means older formats wouldn't have significant changes to their decks year to year, which means new players could get into Eternal formats by building a budget version of the deck and slowly building into it over time. Also, since the power level of the budget cards and the non-budget versions were closer in strength, having a budget version of the list was actually not as much of a detriment compared to the actual full powered deck list. Which meant that a new player's budget deck just was more competitive. And because your budget list was more competitive, you could actually win games at your local game store, and your budget version of a modern deck could help you pay for upgrading it into the full powered version. This ecosystem was great. It preserved the longevity of the game, created good entry points for players, and was excellent for deck brewing. If your brew was only a little bit weaker than the meta, it was still pretty viable, and since the meta wasn't that strong, it was easy to brew something that was close enough to powerful. Then Wizards made a change. What if they printed a card that was intentionally powerful into standard? Enter Fatal Push. This completely shifted Modern. This became the most defining card in Modern, period. That was just the beginning though. Wizards realized they could print cards for other formats into standard. They could print modern cards into standard. They could print commander cards into standard. By cranking up the power level of every set, you could make it so every player needs every set. All you have to do that is make sure that the new set has something really, really powerful that pushes out an old card. So what's the big deal? Like, why is this a problem? Why not just keep making stronger and stronger cards infinitely? For competitive formats, that's an easy answer. It's expensive. Remember when Shieldred dominated Standard? Wasn't that long ago. The card was quite pricey. Maybe you bought 4 copies of it because it was the most dominant card in Standard by a wide margin. You kinda needed it to be competitive, but then it got power crept. Shieldred actually fell to the wayside before it rotated out, meaning all that money you spent was kinda wasted. And what was it replaced by? Mono red, super fast aggro, which maybe you bought into. And then you got cards banned out of it because it was too strong, it was too dominant. Hey, super quick addendum here. Yes, I know that mono red is like kind of back in standard, but if you had these cards banned from under you and you have to buy new mono red cards, it's still the same problem. And also, if this mono red deck is also super, super dominant and then more cards get banned out of it, it's still a problem. Yes, I am aware that technically mono red has more metagame share than VV at this current moment in time. So now you're left with VV, which why would you buy VV? The deck's gonna get banned, so what's the point in purchasing it? And we know this is bad for the game because Paper Standard is way down. Paper Modern is way down. Neither of these formats are nearly as popular as they once were. And it really all started with the power creep. It's actually so crazy how I got pump and dump scammed by the Modern format. Here's my story. I liked playing artifact decks. I have Mox Opals because it's a staple of Modern, so I can play Affinity and Lantern Control. Modern Horizons 1 comes out. Urza gets printed, so I have to buy Urzas to keep up. If I'm playing a non-Urza artifact deck, I'm losing. So I spend money on Urza. Then Oko gets printed. Now I know this is going to get banned, so I'm not going to waste money on Oko. So instead, I have to just quit. I take a break from the format while Oko is around. Then Oko gets banned. Cool, now I can go back to playing my artifact decks, right? Wrong. Mox Opal gets banned because with Urza, it's now too strong. But we didn't ban Urza, we banned Opal. So now I have these Opals, which I can't use. And now I have these Urzas that I spent money on, which are now not strong enough for Modern because you don't have Opal to support the deck. So I sell those to try and build a Modern Horizons 2 deck eventually. And then the One Ring comes out. I'm definitely not going to buy that. I need it to be competitive, but I know it's just going to get banned. It's in every deck. So what's the point? And then Modern Horizons 3 comes out, and I just don't buy any Modern Horizons 3 cards. I haven't played Modern since. And to add insult to injury, now, after all of these shenanigans, because Modern Horizons 3 has power crept the format so much, they unbanned Mox Opal. So now I could rebuy the Opals at much higher cost so I can go back to playing Affinity, which is the deck I had at the start of this whole story. Needless to say, I don't play Modern anymore. And I stuck around for a lot longer than other people did. Power creep is expensive. It prices people out of the game. And that is really bad for a game like Magic, where you need a lot of people to show up to play the game. It erodes confidence in the format. Why buy a card if it's going to be completely useless the next day? And to be clear, I don't care about the monetary value of cards holding, as long as they're still playable. If my Mox Opals got reprinted into Oblivion and fell to $1, that's fine, as long as I got to play the card Mox Opal for the entire duration of that time. Enough about competitive formats. Who cares about that? Let's talk about EDH. Power creep does not hurt casual Commander as much as competitive formats, but it is still really bad for EDH. One thing powerful cards do is they hurt deck brewing, and this is true for all formats. If you want to brew a deck in Modern, it has to be strong enough to compete with Modern Horizons 3 cards. In Commander, if you want to brew around with some jank old stuff, it's just not going to be as powerful as the new things. Commander has genuinely sped up a lot. Part of that is the introduction of these cards designed for Commander. The commanders have lower mana value, the removal is cheaper as well, and the power level of these things that are designed for Commander just eclipse the power level of things not designed for Commander. Smothering Tithe is made for Commander. If you want a 4 mana ramp option for your white deck, this is the best option, period. And if you were playing Hedron Archive or Solemn Simulacrum before that, trust me, those two are not even in the same ballpark as Smothering Tithe. And this is a huge difference from how it used to be. When Hedron Archive came out, yeah, it competes for the 4 mana ramp slot of Solemn Simulacrum, but it's not so much more powerful that you needed to buy that card to be even in a comparable league to other decks. And as the average power level of cards go up, the speed at which the game ends is way faster too. If previously maybe 9 mana cards ended the game, but as 8 mana and 7 mana cards get stronger, well, they can end the game now, and then 6 and 5 and so on and so forth. And that makes it harder to play your old 9 mana finisher because the game ended on turn 7 because of the 7 mana finisher. This shrinks the card pool for you. If 4 mana cards are so powerful in Commander that they demand removal instantly, or they require you to keep up on pace, then having a great 6-drop is going to feel way worse. And since these are the new cards, new casual EDH players are going to be opening them from packs and putting them in decks. So this will affect the format. I know it's casual and all that, and players will intentionally play bad cards, but eventually your bad cards are so bad, you lose every game and it can be very frustrating, so you might upgrade the deck. Or you just play against new players who are playing stronger things. And even if you currently play intentionally bad cards, your bad cards today are just last year's broken cards. And this has the potential to get a lot worse. We got Jeweled Lotus and Dockside banned by the Rules Committee in an attempt to slow down the game, but now that the format is run by Wizards, what's to stop them from printing Jeweled Lotus 2 and just making it a game changer and keeping it in the format? I also want to take a moment to dispel the myth that strong cards are good for new players. I think this is pretty silly. I could come up with an obviously overpowered card, and a new player can crack it from a pack and go, "Oh, that's crazy, that's strong." Sure, I guess, and maybe they get excited for that. But new players get excited over lots of things. It doesn't have to actually be literally unbeatably strong. As an example, lots of new players really like the card Phyrexian Obliterator. It feels unbeatable until you realize it's not. But you can be excited for bad cards. It takes time for you to learn what is and isn't actually good, what is actually a strong card. New players get excited over lots of things. In fact, there's a really, really good article about why the game has and needs bad cards written by Mark Rosewater, who apparently, I don't know, forgot about this article. It's one of the best articles about game design ever written, and it is seemingly being ignored. So no, I don't think powerful, busted, crazy cards are good for new players. It's actually really bad for new players specifically. Let's say you're a new player coming in because of Final Fantasy, and then you build I don't know, a Cloud deck. You want Cloud in your deck, and the Buster Sword. Wow, so cool. And then you lose every single game because this VV Cauldron deck just obliterates you on turn 3. Is this new player having fun? Are they excited about Cloud? Or are they annoyed? And then where's the interesting part? Okay, VV looks like a strong card, but it's so strong, it's unbeatable. So you just learn, you go VV, Cauldron, whatever else, and then that's it. There's nothing else to beat that. This isn't fun for new players. All the fans of Spider-Man who want to play standard with Spider-Man cards are going to get thermonuclear bombed by VV. It's just not good for casuals. It's not good for people trying to get into the game. Whereas if the format powers down significantly, you can play your bad Spider-Man cards that you enjoy. Spider-Man got a lot of things wrong as a set, but I really, really love that it's not a strong set. These cards are terrible, which is great. This should be the power level of standard, because then anyone, a new player, can put their favorite cards in a deck and then not get blown up on turns 1, 2, and 3. They actually get to 4 mana to cast their favorite cards and then 5 mana to attack with their favorite cards. Yes, it might not be meta, it might not be that strong, but at least they got to play the game. Power creep is just so bad for a long-term game like this. As the formats just speed up more and more and more, what is the logical endpoint? Modern becomes a turn 1 format, Standard becomes a turn 1 format, EDH becomes more of a turn 1 format, even in casual play? Like, what are we doing here? It feels like there's no forethought put into what is going to happen if we just keep doing this over and over and over again. This is going to cause a lot of burnout for players, and I'm really worried about it. So what's the solution, right? Well, obviously, focusing on standard. They could make Sarah Angel the best card in standard. Just don't print anything stronger than Sarah Angel, and bada bing, bada boom, that's the best card. It's really that easy. Standard solves power creep perfectly, and it also solves complexity creep, which could be its own video. But a lot of these stronger cards are also more complex. They're not just bigger numbers, they're also more words on the text box. They do so many more things than other cards. Ragavan is not just stronger than the Savannah Lions, it is way more complex. There's a lot more decisions that need to be made when you play Ragavan. I love Standard as being a low power format made of new cards, such that new players buying new cards can see viable cards in their packs and put them into decks and actually play at the local game store. That is a genius thing Magic does, which other card games really don't, and we just broke that safety valve of Standard. So why did they do that? Normally, any game that lasts this long and has this many pieces would kill for a solution to power creep. Something to really ensure the longevity of the game. Well, come on. The answer is obvious. It's money, right? You see, the only reason to make a card so strong everybody playing the game everywhere would need it is to force everyone everywhere to buy it. But everyone has their limit. You can only spend so much on Magic before you either can't or won't anymore. And every single time a deck gets banned or power crept, there are some amount of people who simply won't buy back into the format. And this is the reason we are seeing such a decline in paper formats. It's a lot of power creep, and it's hard to keep up with. Especially with these bans, like, oh my goodness, ban windows are so stupid. Every ban should be an emergency ban. Just don't print broken cards to begin with. I feel so bad for the Wizards design team here. Printing a balanced card is very difficult to do. Like, making a busted card is easy. I did one for this video. Making everything balanced is so tricky, and with 7 sets, that's so much to balance. And if you want to push the envelope, which Hasbro wants them to do, it's really hard to push the envelope with every card the same amount because it's so easy to then break something. And I assume Hasbro did not give them any extra resources at all, which means they're probably stretched really thin. Now, the problem with this solution is it requires Hasbro to allow Wizards to use Standard for longevity. But the Hasbro executives do not care about the longevity of Magic the Gathering. I've said it in a previous video, and I'll say it again. I just genuinely don't think they have an actual long-term plan. We don't know when they're going to reprint Universes Beyond cards. We don't know if they're going to do anything about power creep. We don't know if they're going to, tone down the number of sets every year. all of this stuff. And the reason we don't know that is they probably don't have a plan. I assume they're just going to pocket their 7-figure salary for 10 years, and then it's some other person's problem once they retire. Now, of course, I would love to be wrong. I would love, love, love to be wrong about that. It would be so awesome if I am wrong about like everything that I say in these types of videos. I would love that so much. But tragically, I think I'm going to be right, which sucks. Okay, so what's a solution you as an actual player can do to fight against power creep? Well, you could play standard on arena, since when cards get banned, you get refunded wild cards, and then one wild card is the same price of every card, which is okay. You know, it's better than the other option. But if your card gets power crept and not banned, you're still just out the wild cards, so it's not perfect. Or you can play Pauper, the best 60 card format right now, period. Additionally, Cube and Dan are ways of playing which are truly not harmed by power creep. Or embrace it and play CEDH. CEDH is proxy friendly, so if your deck gets power crept, who cares? It's pretty cheap to just build a new proxy deck. I decided to change up my CEDH list, and no card cost me over $1. Proxies are cheap. I do think there's something more to be said about strong cards in casual EDH and how to avoid using them, how to make last year's strong cards good enough to compete with this year's broken ones, but I'll save it for its own video. Thanks for watching, and special thanks to my tier 3 patrons whose names you see here. If you want to join the Patreon and get in on any of this, click the link below.